Have you ever heard the phrase, buried 6 feet under? Most people assume every grave is exactly 6 feet deep, but that's actually not true. Some graves are shallower, some are deeper, and the surprising reason behind the phrase has nothing to do with modern funeral practices. Today we're uncovering the real story behind where 6 feet under came from, and what actually happens at cemeteries today. Welcome to the Funeral Channel Network, brought to you by the Funeral Program site, where we explore funeral traditions, burial practices, and answer the questions most people never think to ask. For generations, people have believed that everyone is buried 6 feet underground. Movies show it, TV repeats it, people casually say it in conversation. But in reality, 6 feet is more of a cultural expression than an actual burial rule. The phrase is often connected to one historical event, the plague outbreak in 1665 in London. During that time, officials reportedly issued guidance encouraging graves to be dug 6 feet deep. One theory says it was meant to reduce concerns about disease spread and keep animals from disturbing burial sites. But historians debate whether that rule was universally enforced, and over time, the phrase stuck in public memory even though burial practices evolved. So how deep are graves today? Modern burial depth depends largely on local laws, cemetery regulations, soil conditions, and whether a burial vault or outer burial container is used. In many cemeteries across the United States, the actual casket may sit closer to around 4 feet below the surface, with enough soil covering the top to meet regulations. The total grave depth often ends up somewhere between 4 and 6 feet, but not always. Double-depth burials may go deeper to allow 2 caskets in one plot. Green burials can vary too, depending on conservation cemetery requirements. You might be wondering, why not always bury deeper? There are practical reasons. Deeper graves can create challenges with groundwater, excavation safety, cemetery maintenance, and long-term land use. Modern cemeteries are engineered differently than historical burial grounds and follow local standards. And another common myth, being buried deeper doesn't necessarily preserve the body longer. Natural decomposition depends more on factors like moisture, temperature, oxygen, casket type, soil conditions, and whether embalming occurred. Cemetery crews today carefully prepare graves using equipment and procedures designed for stability, appearance, and long-term maintenance. So the next time someone says someone was buried 6 feet under, you'll know the truth. It's mostly a phrase rooted in history, not a universal burial standard. Here's something a lot of people don't realize. Families usually don't choose the exact depth of a burial. In most cases, the cemetery already has established burial standards based on local regulations, cemetery policies, grave type, and whether the space may be used again in the future. The depth can vary depending on the cemetery and location. If you're wondering whether the cemetery tells you how deep they'll dig, the answer is usually only if you ask. Many families never discuss burial depth because it's handled behind the scenes as part of the burial preparation process. But if it's important to you, you absolutely can ask the cemetery or funeral director about the planned depth, whether it's a single depth burial, double depth burial, vault requirements, or future companion burial options. So while people often say everyone is buried 6 feet under, the actual depth may be different than most people imagine. So, did you know that not every grave is actually 6 feet deep? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if there's another funeral myth you want us to cover, let us know. That wraps it up for today's video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.